So that was fun, right? Let's talk about the facts first. So we got two Democratic debates coming up at the end of January and then in the middle of September. So we only got two more debates. And then February 3rd, 2020 is when the Iowa caucuses happen. What I'm doing is I'm building an infrastructure around Bernie Sanders. So I'm going to get Bernie bros and Bernie sisters together because when Bernie Sanders becomes president, then we will have the next generation that's ready to govern and ready to put Bernie Sanders policies into place. So I feel like Bernie Sanders is both inevitable and impossible, and I'll get to that in a second. So February 3rd, Iowa caucuses, February 11th, New Hampshire, February 22nd, Nevada, February 23rd, South Carolina, then March 3rd. So on March 3rd, we'll actually see who's winning and who's not winning. For right now, it's just a crapshoot, and, whoever gets more popular. So whoever's gaining traction, getting more popular, getting on the TV, and whoever you're seeing, those are probably the front runners. So after Super Tuesday, after Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, and Virginia vote, we'll actually see who's winning and who's not winning. And if you're not any of those states that I just mentioned, you should be pretty pissed at the Democrats because your vote really doesn't matter, because once all those states vote, then you're going to have, one or two major candidates, and so by the time it gets to you, you only get to choose between one of two, and you don't even have to consider the rest of them. But if you do live in those states, then you need to know all 25 of these candidates and then find out the best of those. So I wouldn't say it's, pros and cons. If you're not any of those states, if you're not Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, South Carolina, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Iowa, if you're none of those states, then your vote is even watered down even more. So it's just one tiny vote after, all 23 candidates have been eliminated, so you get to choose between Hillary and Obama. That's your, choice right there, whereas everybody else got to choose, between everybody. So Iowa is weighted, and so are all those first states. All those states are weighted. And so who's winning? I can't really tell right now, but essentially I would just say, the top-tier candidates. So I would say Kamala Harris and Mayor Pete's up there, Joe, Bernie, Tulsi. Mike Gravel, probably not. Andrew Yang is kind of making some traction. And Elizabeth Warren. So Elizabeth Warren is my fifth choice. And she's pretty popular, too. So she's got a ton of progressive planks. Kamala Harris and Mayor Pete, I'm not going to vote for either one of them, but I wouldn't hate if they were the president, because compared to the shit we got now, they are much better than the, shit show that's going on right now. So the current conversation is really between the intellectuals. You're going to have 10% of the leaders, and this is Noam Chomsky. The way that you get elected is you convince the leaders, the community leaders, and the intellectuals that you're good enough, and then the people that, rely on others, their opinion to go vote, then they, will listen to that 10%. So 8 months prior to the Iowa caucuses, it's anybody's game. Here in July 2019, right, 8 months before the elections, the 10% intellectual class are going to jump into this and figure out what is best, and get the rest of America to look into it and really think about it, and then we'll come up with the conclusion. But some people just go along with whatever Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow tells them, because they're a bunch of ditto-heads, sycophants that can't think for their own goddamn selves. So who's winning? Rely on your own consciousness. Nathaniel Grisham III. And my favorite, I'll tell you, okay, Bernie Sanders, I said that he looks both unstoppable and impossible. He looks inevitable. Bernie Sanders looks inevitable and somewhat impossible, so that's a contradiction. So Bernie is the man. He's the man to beat. He's a beast of a politician. So I don't like how he, went ahead and said he wasn't going to run as an independent, even though he is an independent. I think that's kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But that's what Hillary meant. Anyways, the reason why he looks inevitable. So 2016, we had a good candidate, Bernie Sanders, and then we had a dog shit candidate, a Republican, Hillary Clinton. And did the Republicans vote for Hillary? No, the Republicans didn't vote for Hillary. The Republicans voted for the Republican. So Democrats pretended to be Republican. Those days have gone. Fuck that. Be an independent, think for yourself, and actually provide an alternative. You're the opposition party. You're going to be different. Sometimes people want, the smart, a smart man or a nice, compassionate woman. People want different things at different times. So offer them something different. You're going to try to pretend to be a Republican in hopes that the Republicans are going to vote. They're thicker than thieves. The Republicans could give a fuck less if Hillary Clinton said she would do everything that Donald Trump is doing. They could give a fuck less. They don't care if this country is doing good or not. They just want their team to win. So if Hillary Clinton had all the policies that Donald Trump was going to have, and she had a lot of similar policies, the war policies, war in Syria and war everywhere. So you want to get into a war, you don't give a shit about peace, then Hillary Clinton was your girl, right, Republicans? They don't give a shit. So they just want the Republicans to win. So I think to appeal to the Republicans is they're stupid. You're a Democrat. So just be a Democrat. However you think that, if that means you're liberal on some things, then that's okay. Stand up and take your licks. So becoming president looks inevitable for Bernie Sanders. We were robbed, okay? We were robbed in 2016. Think about when Muhammad Ali, he's the greatest, he's the champion, and then he says he's not going to be drafted into Vietnam. And then the boxing commission says that he can't fight no more. What, you're not going to go kill people? Well, we're not going to let you fight. And so, because Muhammad Ali was the greatest, he was the heavyweight champion, he beat all those people, and he was the best. The only way you're going to be better than him is if you beat him. So you can't become the king unless you beat the king. So the politics, pulled the king away, and so they kind of wounded the king and, took him off to the side. So he could have won 3 more and been, the heavyweight champion for 3 more years. That was the prime of his life. Muhammad Ali was in the prime of his life, and because of the fucking Vietnam War, which was bullshit, fuck the Vietnam War and fuck the draft, Muhammad Ali was right. History, was correct in saying that Muhammad Ali was right. But who was the champion? The champ was taken out of running. So who was the champ after he was taken out and 2 other assholes were fighting? So the boxing commission said Ali can't fight, 2 other assholes get up there, and even if one of those assholes beats the other, and they've had a long record and they've been fighting for a while, they didn't beat the champion. So that means Ali is still champ whether you wanted him to be the champ or not. Just by taking him out of running, the 2 assholes that fight, the one that wins, he knows that Ali is still the champ. Until he beats Ali, or until Ali retires on his own accord, Ali is still the champion. And that's Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was a champion. Bernie Sanders did a fucking awesome job. For people saying that he has no chance, you're stupid as shit. God, you're stupid. 45% of the country, of the Democrats voted for Bernie Sanders, so he's got strong support already. And that's why I think it looks impossible, which I'll get to. But the reason why it looks inevitable was we had Hillary Clinton. That's who the Democrats offered to run against Donald, a Republican-like candidate. A Republican-like candidate that wasn't progressive on anything. Hillary hated the gay people. But you don't hear the Hillary Clinton assholes talk about, they'll shit on Tulsi, and then they'll say if you criticize a woman, then you're a sexist. But they'll shit on Tulsi because she's not Hillary. Oh, Tulsi, when she was a kid, she was against gay folks. This entire country's been against gay folks. What fucking nation do you live in? 2015 is when we just legalized it. So when she was living in her daddy's house, she listened to her daddy, and that's going to be used as an excuse. Tulsi says that she's going to take a bullet. She would fight and die for her gay brothers and sisters. How many times did Hillary Clinton say that? Hillary's never said that she would fight and die for the gay folks. She was against gay marriage up until she was for the border wall. She's for war. How is she a progressive? If anything, I think that Donald was the lesser of the evils. But that's not saying much at all compared to Hillary. What a shitty candidate. So we didn't offer up our champion. The Democrats didn't offer up the best candidate. The Democrats offered up the one that looked like the Republican instead of actually the one that looked like a Democrat. So we need our title fight, America. America, we didn't get our title fight. We didn't get our title fight between Bernie and Donald. I remember talking about that fight, 8 months out when Bernie announced. Who do you think's going to be, who's going to win between Trump and Bernie? So the American people are pretty smart. They could see this stuff coming. And Bernie Sanders would have kicked the shit out of Donald. And even if you don't agree with that assessment, when the conversation between Donald and Bernie, they're supposed to be the polar opposites. So it'd be interesting to see what they disagree on and what they agree on. That's a conversation that America needs. We need that conversation. So we didn't get our title fight. We didn't put up our champion. The champion got robbed. They cheated him. And so we never got the title fight. And now it's Bernie Sanders' time again. He's, they're both elderly, right, Trump and Bernie. But he seems pretty vibrant. He seems like he's got a lot of life in him. I'm a little bit worried about Mike Gravel. But Mike Gravel, he seems like he's got some life in him, but I think he might be older. But Bernie Sanders is the man to beat. Bernie Sanders, this is the Bernie Sanders show up until the election day. And so, because we didn't get a title fight, because we got cheated, since the Democrats didn't offer up the best candidate, we got a stupid fucking debate, right? And it's all, well, he said that, and it was sexist, even though it wasn't sexist. Let's talk about the issues, and let's talk maturely about the issues. Let's actually offer a candidate that has progressive values, and that actually, will stand for something. Somebody that's, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So, Bernie Sanders, we never got the debate. We never got the conversation. We didn't get the election between Bernie and Trump. So, I feel like Bernie is just inevitable. He's absolutely inevitable, right? Bernie is still the champ, just like Muhammad Ali was still the champ when they cheated him. And until Trump and Bernie actually go against each other, in America, we don't know who would have won. We don't really know who, because elections can, go either way, right? So, who would have won between Bernie and Donald? You don't really know. I think Bernie would have beat the shit out of Donald, not even close. But ultimately, I guess I don't really know. But that's the thing. We didn't get our Ali. We didn't put our champion up there to fight against them, and so we don't know. And you're going to say Hillary Clinton could beat up Joe Frazier? Hillary would, it looks like a feather would knock Hillary over. Joe Frazier and Hillary Clinton, that would be a horrible title fight. George Foreman and Hillary, that's what we're doing, George Foreman versus Hillary. Why don't we actually put Muhammad Ali up there to fight these, boxers? Now, the reason why I say he's impossible, and I think these are still Hillary Clinton assholes saying this shit. I think the Hillary Clinton assholes are going to be the last people on the Bernie train. But the reason why it looks impossible is because Bernie's a socialist Jew. My God, we're the capitalist Christian America. So a socialist Jew is going to become president of capitalist Christian America? Oh my God, that doesn't even seem like that's possible. Well, this is America. Anything's possible. And then the 1848 revolutions. I'm going to drop a little history on you. The 1848 revolutions is when you had 50 nations erupted into revolutionary fervor. It's just like in Occupy. You had the Arab Spring. You had all these protests. The world was waking up. They call it the springtime of nations, 1848. In 1848, why did 50 countries just all of a sudden say they wanted freedom against their totalitarian, oppressive, authoritarian governments? Well, because Karl Marx, I think, who was a Jew, he writes the Communist Manifesto. He writes the Communist Manifesto, says the working people of the world needs to unite. When we all stick together, the working class people can run the factories. We don't need these bosses anymore. We can boss ourselves, and we can run this thing for ourselves. So then the Communist Manifesto is only like 3 pages long, so it's not very big. Karl Marx and Engels, somebody else, writes the Communist Manifesto. They pass the Communist Manifesto out, and then everybody erupts into revolutionary fervor. What that says to me is all you got to do is just say the word socialism, just say communism, and then that's socialism is popular. People, some people say, well, Hitler was a socialist. No, Hitler used socialism as a cover because he knew that it was popular. So he called himself a National Socialist, and he was very much a capitalist. So, get the fuck out of here, a warmongering capitalist. So he used National Socialism because it was popular. The 1848 revolution shows how popular socialism is. The word socialism just needed to be whispered, and as soon as it was whispered, then all of a sudden socialism just took hold in all these countries. So you had 50 nations engaged in revolution. Some of them won, some of them lost. I think the King of Bavaria stepped down, so there is some victories, but I think they mostly lost. But you can't ignore that, that was very popular. People are ready to die for this shit. So to say that because he's a socialist Jew, and the Jewish part, yeah, we're a Christian nation, but Jesus was a Jew. And so to be Jewish, there's different definitions of what it takes to be a Jew. Some people think if you're, born Jewish, you're Jewish for life. Other people think that you have to do things. You got to believe in the Torah. You got to get circumcised. You got to, eat kosher food. Kosher, that's one of the best things I like about the Jewish religion is kosher foods, right? You treat animals right. You treat them humanely. You're going to slaughter them, but there's no reason to. You feed them, corn-fed. You don't just let them eat a bunch of crap. So, you take care of the animal that you're going to eat. You don't abuse them. You don't hurt them. So I like that they believe in kosher food. But, okay, so is it impossible for a Jewish person? I mean, they said that about JFK. He's a Catholic, right? And then Tulsi Gabbard, my God, she's Hindu. So what is going on? And hell, you know, Bernie might actually be atheist. But let's assume he's of the Jewish faith. Okay, so he's a good Jew. He's a proud Jew. He says all these things. So is it possible for a Jew to become president of America? This is fucking America. Anything's possible. If you can dream it, you can do it. So that's, you know, America. Is it possible for, so I don't think it would be that hard to bridge the gap. So the people that think intelligently and independently, they won't have a problem with his Jewishness, but some people might be, you know, big-time Christians, and they might be big-time Muslims or something, and they just won't, they can't, you know, come across to vote for a Jewish person. So the only argument that Bernie really needs to make is just, you know, the similarities between religions. So the Muslim and the Jewish and the Christian religions are all Abrahamic. They all come from Abraham. They all come from, what, in the Middle East, right? Jerusalem and Saudi Arabia. And then they also all believe in the Golden Rule. So I think all he has to do is just make the case that even though he's got, you know, he's part of the Jewish religion, he's a Jew. I'm very careful with saying Jew, because if you say a hard Jew, then that sounds like you don't like the Jewish people. And religion doesn't move me, but I'm not Hitler. So if you want to be religious, you can be religious. That's no problem. I've seen good religious people and bad religious people, so I feel like I need to, okay, I guess I'll just talk about myself. What I need to understand about anybody of religion is, does that insanity fuck up and warp your mind to where you aren't even on this planet anymore? You're religious? Okay, do you believe in goodness? Do you believe that, you know, between good and evil, you've chosen goodness? I know a lot of Christians that haven't chosen goodness. Atheists, right, they could choose good or bad. They could do what they want. So I think that frightens me, that if you choose evil, you choose the devil. That means you choose bad, and you choose to hurt people, right? That's bad. So you got to choose goodness. So that would be my, you know, sort of, how does his Jewish faith play into his policies? How does his Jewish faith interpret, you know, essentially, if you were to take the religion away, how does he behave? Is he still against murder? Is he still against rape and killing people? And, you know, has he chosen goodness? And has he said evil is bad? No violence, don't hurt innocent people, don't steal from innocent people. The Torah, that's the 10 Commandments. So that's, you know, the Christians believe in Jesus. Jesus was a Jew. They believe in the 10 Commandments too. So I think that I don't think that bridge will be too hard to divide. Also, Israel, you know, Americans love Israel more than they do their own people. So Israel just gets $4 billion. They get all the military protection in the world. They're allowed to kill and murder anybody that they want to. And they get universal health care. So the love of Israel, you know, I think that should somehow bridge the gap between any anti-Semitism or anybody that would just discount a person because of their religious ways. I also think that religious people probably, I don't know, I think atheists are the only ones that actually have the key to the future, because who's right, the Muslims or the Jews? It's neither. They're both wrong. They're both religious. So, you know, what the fuck are you all? There's the invisible man in the clouds. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Jews believe in one God, and so does Christians. So there's, you know, similarities. So I think he can bridge the gap to say that he's got, you know, Christian-like values. And for me, you know, I know he's a good man. So, you know, his Jewishness, if it doesn't really add or take away. If anything, when it comes to the policy of Israel, people say that he's in a perfect position to deal with Israel because he himself is a Jew. And he was, you know, his family ran away from the Holocaust, and there's only, you know, his brother and him, and then he's got some grandchildren, so he was able to, they got out of, you know, Nazi Germany, and they were able to make something of themselves. So he's, you know, connected to Israel in a way that most Americans are not connected to Israel. So, you know, is it impossible? Not really. I think it's totally possible. It's America. He's the best president. He would be the best president America's ever had. Ever, 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 ever. And then the last thing I want to say is my other candidates, Tulsi Gabbard, I like number 1, Mike Gravel number 2, Bernie Sanders number 3, and Andrew Yang number 4, and then Elizabeth Warren number 5. I'm warming up to Kamala and Mayor Pete. But those would be the top 7 that I like the best. Those are the most progressive. Those are the ones that's going to bring the best out of America. Tulsi Gabbard is essentially Bernie Sanders, only she's better at foreign policy. Mike Gravel is Bernie Sanders, only, you know, on crack. Mike Gravel's Bernie Sanders on crack. So Mike Gravel is just a badass. He might be too radical or too little, disheveled, but that's exactly what the fuck I want. So I want Mike Gravel. If we elected Mike Gravel, Jesus Christ, we would have such a badass. Bernie Sanders is still a politician, so he kind of, wants to hedge his bets a little bit, whereas Mike Gravel, he just tells it like it is. And to go against a Trump, you're going to need someone who tells it like it is. So Mike Gravel's better on foreign policy, but Mike Gravel also believes in universal basic income. So he's taking Andrew Yang's thunder too, and he believes in ending the war on drugs, and so does Bernie. So they have a lot of similar. I would love to see a conversation between actually those five. That's the only debate I want to see: Elizabeth Warren versus Andrew Yang, Bernie, Tulsi, Mike Gravel, and we'll let Kamala and Mayor Pete get in there too. So, Tulsi Gabbard is Bernie, only she's better on foreign policy. Mike Gravel is better than Bernie in every which way. He might be the long shot. But if Bernie can listen to Tulsi and listen to Mike Gravel and, adopt universal basic income, get better when it comes to his foreign policy on Venezuela, he said it was a bad dictator, so that sets a pretense for a war, whereas Tulsi says, fuck the war in Venezuela. So I know with Tulsi Gabbard, we're not going to go with war, against Venezuela. With Bernie, I'm not for sure. He was in favor of the war in Serbia and the war in Somalia under Bill Clinton, so he's got some warmongerishness. So does Tulsi. Tulsi's got some warmongerishness, so really, maybe I should put Mike Gravel number one, because Mike Gravel is just such a fucking badass on so many issues. Tulsi's in favor of the Electoral College. Hey, Republicans, there you go, vote for Tulsi. She's for the Electoral. So, but I don't like that. So that's the only, criticism that I have of Tulsi. But Mike Gravel is just so progressive on a wide range of issues. I'm going to have to put him at number one. So Mike Gravel number one, Tulsi at number two, Bernie at number three, Andrew Yang at number four, and then Elizabeth Warren number five. And I've already mentioned some of that. Andrew Yang, because of his UBI dreams, he's going to get rid of poverty. He's got other issues. I got to jump into his policies to see. He doesn't sound good on Palestine, but I don't have many criticisms of him. And then Elizabeth Warren is, like Kamala and Mayor Pete, they just have a whole range of progressive policies. So in a way, I would say actually Kamala, Mayor Pete, and Elizabeth Warren are all tied for me. They're not as, they're not Mike Gravel, they're not Bernie Sanders, they're not even Tulsi Gabbard, right? They're not even Andrew Yang. And so even though, they have a lot of progressive planks to their thing when it comes to who's the most progressive, Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Mike Gravel. So who's winning? I'm not for sure. I have no idea. I don't know who's winning or not. But I know I like those candidates, and so I think it's my job to tell you about the ones, the Tulsis and the Mike Gravels, the people that you don't know, Andrew Yang, and to elevate the ones that I like, so that way you'll at least consider them. And then we'll find out February 3rd and March 3rd. March 3rd we'll know who's winning on March 3rd, 2020. So we got a long way to go. But, yeah. Bernie Sanders looks both unstoppable, inevitable, and impossible. If he could pick up these other progressive planks, I think that would make him much better. They're more long-shot candidates than he is, but that's, who gives a shit? Who's the fucking best? Who would be the best person for the job? Let's ask that question. Who's winning? Who's got the most, who's got the most chance of winning? I don't give a shit. I could care who, I vote for the people, the ones that I like. And if I believe in you and I like you, then that means you encourage me and you actually got me out there. But Republicans, they take their voters for granted because they'll vote for Republicans no matter what. No matter what. So how good of candidates are they going to get? So, yeah. Exciting stuff, huh, America? Huh, America? So, Nathaniel Grisham, who's winning? I have no idea. I have no clue who's winning. But I do like the candidates I told you about, and I hope that you all check them out and consider them. Okie dokie.